The opposition NDC is accusing Jean Mensa, the Jean Mensa-led commission of flagrantly disregarding the function of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, warning that could derail the country's democracy. The party argues that the EC is bent on conducting the upcoming limited registration exercise at its district offices despite stiff opposition by the major stakeholders. General Secretary of the party, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, also revealed that although Parliament has approved funds for the refurbishment of registration kits, the Commission failed to use the funds for its intended purpose, alleging also that the chair of the Commission, Jean Mensa, said the Commission is not accountable to the parties. Mr. Asiedu Nketia wants the Commission to be transparent in its dealing. He's been speaking exclusively to my colleague, Kwesi Parker-Wilson.
To begin seeing leadership of Electoral Commission treating IPAC with some contempt, or members of IPAC with contempt, what they are bargaining for is very scary. About Dr. Bosman's pronouncement some 2 weeks ago, the Electoral Commission can take our decision with or without anybody, and he was roundly condemned by society. Yesterday, the chairperson of the commission repeated the same thing in a worse form. Because I particularly asked a very simple and innocuous question. That look, madam, you are talking when the decision, they announced their decision that registration of voters, this limited registration, is going to take place only at the district offices of the commission.
And you know, you say the EC is insisting that they are going to conduct the limited registration exercise at their district offices.
Yes, and we say go to do it at electoral areas. That was before the referendum. Right. They insisted that no, they will do it with the online equipment that is intended for that supplementary registration. That was what they were going to use.
And the EC, was the EC emphatic on that?
Yes, so they insisted on that one and actually used it for the limited registration in the referendum affected areas. And we warned them, we came out, issued a statement that we think that this registration would not succeed because of ABC. We gave the reasons. Right. And lo and behold, at the end of the exercise, they were able to register only 47,000 out of the projected 100,000.
So the political parties are kicking against the process.
Yes. Clearly. So now they are going, so they told us that, well, because of these challenges, they couldn't do the second phase of the registration. So they are waiting to combine that one with the limited registration that they would have to do in 2019, so that we should allow them to skip the second phase. So they will do it in 2019 and make sure that by that time, they would have refurbished the registration equipment to be able to go to the electoral areas. Then we agreed. We, at IPAC, documented decisions. Then you come to 2019 now, and you are insisting that you are going to do the registration with the same equipment which you tried and failed.
So are you saying that the EC is undermining the function of IPAC?
They are undermining their own functions. Because you see, according to Act, their functions as provided under Act 451 includes a responsibility on Electoral Commission to undertake activities for the expansion of voter registration. So if you cannot expand, you cannot be seen to be...
They say they are expanding.
They are not expanding. They are shrinking the registration. Because you see, if the limited registration in the past, the systems there were capturing 1 million for limited registration, 1.2 million for limited registration, and now you are going to the field, and you, by your own selves, are claiming that the target of the registration exercise is going to be 300,000 Ghanaians. When you know very well that the population of the country is growing. So from 2014, the new registrants were 1 million. 2016, they were 1.2. So 3 years after, 2019, anybody, any JSS person can project that even if there is no increase, we have to go by the base of 1.2 as pertained in 2016. Then in 2019, you are telling us that the number you intend to capture will be 300,000. Even if you add that one to the 100,000 they projected for the 49 districts, that brings it to 400,000. So if you are by law required to expand registration, and you know the people you intend to register are more than 1 million, and you by your own designs are going to cut down that number and to register only 300,000, what are you doing to yourself?
And so, Jonah, clearly what is happening, would you say is a threat to our democracy?
Sure, because any democracy that seeks to disenfranchise people, it's not a good democracy, because everybody, whatever affects all must be decided by all.
But Jonah, your critics say that, the NDC is deliberately frustrating the efforts of the Jean Mensah-led commission. Basically because of,
Are you one of the critics?
Oh, of course, some critics are not.
But the documentation I have showed you and the laws I have referred to, do you think that we have a genuine case or we are just blowing hot air? If we have a genuine case, then the problem is that Jean Mensah and her new Electoral Commission is denying themselves the opportunity for fruitful cooperation from the political parties. They are denying themselves the opportunity for fruitful cooperation from political parties, because if your attitude is that, come and help me take my decision and market my decisions, where is the information that led to the taking of those decisions? I say, I won't give you. Then how am I supposed to go to the field?
That is a recipe for disaster, clearly.
Clearly. So how are we supposed to help them? So rather, you should be looking at it's like victim blaming. Those who think that we are making trouble, they are engaged in victim blaming. We are the victims of wrong decisions, and we are fighting that the right decisions ought to be taken. Instead of everybody coming on board to support it. And it is not the rights of NDC alone exclusively. It is your right. It is everybody else's right as provided for by the Constitution. So if you want to sleep over your rights, that is bad enough. But to proceed after you are sleeping over your rights, to accuse another person who is fighting for his rights, is completely unacceptable.
Now, finally, you talked about Parliament approving their budgetary allocation for the refurbishment of the electoral kit or the BVDs or the registration kits. And you say that the Commission failed to do that. I am curious about that. So the big question is the party going to demand how the Commission use the finances or the budgetary allocation approved by Parliament?
They say we are not entitled to information even about the quantum of the money. How then do you proceed to ask them about how they spent it? But I guess everybody in the country, as a citizen and taxpayer, has the right to question. So it's like, I remember one American president who said that it is better to keep the bad boys in so they will piss outside than to keep them out, because when they are out, they will piss in. You understand? So it is better to keep us at IPAC and try to convince us about your decisions. But if you think that the best way is to ignore us, snub us, and so on, we will come outside and we will be pissing in.
Is the party suspecting a foul play somewhere? That monies have been probably misappropriated perhaps?
We haven't come to that yet, but of course it is everybody's right as a taxpayer to demand that type of accountability. But all that we're interested in, because you are talking up, she was comparing the cost of some new technology as against the cost of refurbishing the existing equipment. Right. And she had concluded that it would be cheaper to acquire the new technology than to refurbish the existing equipment. And the cost difference, he mentioned $20 million. And we say, where are the figures? Okay, we need to know the figures and need to know the quality of technology you are bringing on board. When Afarijan was beginning this biometric thing, we formed committees. One was a technical committee where every party was asked to bring their IT experts to join the EC's IT experts to engage the vendor and contribute in designing the system and ask the relevant questions about the provision of enough security in the system so that we have a robust system. So our experts now came to confirm to us that the system is robust enough. And that was how Ghanaians came to accept that, well, every election result that will come from this will be acceptable. You understand? You are speaking to some vendor. We don't know about the quality of technology you are talking about. We don't know who the suppliers are. We don't know what the security features are. And then you come and say one biometric system is cheaper by 20 million than the cost of refurbishing what we have all attested to and bought into as a very robust system.
So they will abandon that and procure
yes,
new ones.
so they are going to throw everything away and procure new ones.
Johnson Asiru Nketia is General Secretary of Opposition NDC, raising all of those concerns there. We've been trying to get some answers from the Electoral Commission at the moment. We've not been successful, but we'll keep working the lines to bring them up on the line so we can get some responses from them.